In one of my very, very early daily briefings, I mentioned that my wife had received a text message, actually 2 text messages from credible and thoughtful friends saying, hey, the government's getting ready to send out the National Guard and lock us all in our homes for 30 days. This was in the middle of March. This morning, the New York Times came out with an article tracing that text message to Chinese and Russian disinformation campaigns. It was a fascinating story. You can go read it at the New York Times if you'd like, but here's what's fascinating to me. My wife is a normal human being living in Omaha, Nebraska, getting normal text messages from people she actually knows, and the genesis and source of that is China and Russia. So when you hear about like disinformation, it's fascinating to me. Like, we're not talking about like abstract theoretical things. We're talking about text messages received by real people in my actual life. It's really fascinating to think about the scope of all of that and how it affects us. So I was just intrigued to find that New York Times article this morning. A friend of mine sent it to me, and you might be interested to look at it as well. Again, it highlights the importance of being careful who we listen to and making sure that we're living with biblical wisdom in the current moment. I'm excited. I want to commend right now our governor, who I think is leading well. He released yesterday a plan to ramp up testing across our state. Another thing I told you in early daily briefings was that the transition is going to have to be between mass quarantine to the ability to test and quarantine only the people who actually have the virus. And what the governor released yesterday is a plan to move us in that direction. I think it's a good plan, and I think it seems like he and his advisors are being wise and thoughtful in how to get us moving in that direction. And so it looks like over the next weeks we'll see testing capacity ramp up in Nebraska, and it looks like we're trying to move from sort of random generalized anxiety about the possibility that we're all infected with a virus to the capacity to actually test and trace and isolate people who really do have it so that we can sort of move our lives back to normal. It looks like that's where we're heading. I think that's a good plan and a good idea, and I think our governor is leading us well, and it's again a grace where we live in the world. As you've seen, local governors have a lot of authority in terms of how they're going to respond to this virus, and so we're graced to live in a place where I think they're doing a good job locally in tackling those things. Now, as I mentioned to you before, we're going to have our parking lot service again this Sunday. The weather's going to be nice again. We're going to do it. I'm standing here in the playground. I don't know if you could tell that. So right over there is the parking lot. That's where we'll be on Sunday morning. And I want to continue to urge you that we have to, as Christians, be thinking about what does it mean for us to live in a world where the risk of the virus is still out there, but where our lives have to return to some state of normalcy. That's the reality we're going to be living in the coming months, is no one can guarantee you, hey, you're going to be protected from this virus affecting you or your family. No one can guarantee you that. We live in a world where this virus now exists. But nor can we live our lives in total isolation and lockdown for the next 12 months. And so we're going to have to learn to walk that forward together. And I think we as the people of God have a chance to sort of show what it looks like to live with a confident trust in the Lord and with some sense of confident, normal life in the midst of some risk and some uncertainty. And so that's what we get to continue to explore together. That's what we're going to be called to live into in the weeks that lie ahead. Part of our goal for that as a church is to get back to normal in the sense of what we're preaching on and talking about. And so that's why we've shifted. For a few weeks, I really felt like, man, I want to address biblically some of the uncertainty and anxiety we're facing about the virus. We've shifted back now into looking at the parables of Jesus and trying to just say, hey, whatever situation we're living in, whatever our circumstances are, Jesus wants us to live as people defined by the kingdom of God. And so let's think about that together. So I'm excited to explore the parable of the sower with you this Sunday. We'll tackle that on Sunday morning in the parking lot. And I'll see you again tomorrow for this week's last daily briefing, since tomorrow is Thursday. So thanks for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow.